Hi, I'm Patrice Strachan here to introduce video 3. If you finished video 2, you now know how to access the RVA Career Expo Google Drive, and you've read through some of the liaison instruction documents that are contained in the drive. We're now going to begin on video 3. In session 3, we're going to learn how to use the CRM. In this video, you'll learn how to open the CRM from the Google Drive, review the various tabs located at the bottom of the CRM, how to navigate through the employer list. We'll review selecting and requesting employer assignments. We'll also cover how to add a new or edit an existing employer record that's on the CRM. And finally, we'll talk about using the custom filter. I recommend that you watch each and every part of this video. The final session, number 6, on using the custom filter is a very, very important tool that you'll need to use. It will really help you navigate through the CRM. So let's begin. All right, we are now in the RVA Career Expo Google Drive. And if you'll refer to video 2, all the instructions that you need to access the drive and open the drive are contained in video 2. And so we're going to assume that you know how to do that, and if you need some further instructions, I would refer you back to video 2. So as we look into the RVA Career Expo Google Drive, you can see the various documents and folders that are listed here. And the second item down, which is called the Active Employer CRM, is the actual CRM. And this is the document that we are going to open to then begin exploring the CRM. So you just double click to open. What I do recommend, and you should have seen this in video 2, is you need to be logged into your Google account because that will provide you with all the functionality that you will need to operate in the CRM environment. It may take a minute for the CRM to load up. It is a pretty sizable document, and depending on the memory on your computer, it may take a minute. As you can see, it is here. So just be patient. All right, we're now live into the CRM. And if you take a look, essentially this is an Excel spreadsheet. It's actually a Google Sheet, which is Google's version of Excel spreadsheet, but it functions almost identical to Excel. So if you're comfortable with Excel, you should have no trouble using the CRM. The first thing I want you to notice is at the bottom of the screen, or the bottom of this document, you will see that there are actually 4 tabs that you can access. And we're on the first tab, which is called the Company Contacts tab. And if you take a look on this tab, you can see by scrolling down, it's just an ABC listing of all the companies we have listed on our CRM. And we'll talk more in depth about this tab later. I just want to address all of the various tabs. The second tab over is another important tab called the Dashboard. And this particular tab will provide you with dashboard application, kind of up-to-date summary information on the Expo and where we stand as far as companies who have registered and liaison assignments, etc. So if you look here, you'll see in the left-hand side, you'll see a pie chart, which will display employer decision if depending on the number of companies who have responded yes or no. Those that have been marked for follow-up, which I'll explain later, or those that have absolutely had no decision made at all. And at this point, this is very early on in the Expo. We're really in day 2 of kickoff for this particular Expo. So as you can see, we've had 16 companies who have responded yes at this point, and the majority have not. And you can also see that we have right now a grand total of 695 companies in the CRM in total. So this is just a great reference point for you to take a look and see how we're doing and the status of the Expo itself and how many companies have already registered. And this pie chart on the right-hand side shows the status of a liaison assignment. So our goal is really to have 100% of all companies on the CRM assigned to a liaison. With 695 employers, that's a pretty challenge, pretty big challenge, but we're up to the challenge. And so think about that as you're requesting companies. It's okay to ask for more than one company assignment, because we have plenty of companies that need to have some type of contact made. And you can just look here and see, how many companies are assigned, how many are unassigned, just to give you sort of an understanding of where we stand from the liaison effort. And on the right-hand side, there are 3 thermometer charts that represent to date how many employers have signed up. At this point, we have 16. How many have purchased access to the candidate database? These are employers who are not planning to attend our event. They simply want to buy access to the resumes. At this point, we have 0. We will have, maybe 20 or so by the end of the event, when the event occurs. And then finally, the number of job seekers that have registered. As of today, as I said, we're only in day 2 of our event planning. We have 19 job seekers who have registered and submitted their resume. All right, going forward and looking at tab 3, you'll see this tab is entitled Employers Attending. And clicking on this, you can actually see the detailed listing of the 16 companies who have registered, and they're listed in alphabetical order. You can see in this chart all 16. If they had a liaison assigned, that would show up also on this report, as well as their social media accounts. We list that there for your, just to make it easier for you as you go through and start posting things on social media, which we'll be covering actually in video 4. And the final tab is industry classes. This is really just a reference tab. So you know that we, with the help of a great roundtable group, we came up with sort of some general sectors, industry sectors that we thought would be helpful to identify. It's not a perfect list. It's sort of a broad list of industries in the Richmond area, but you'll see when I get back to the company contact tab how we use the industry. This is really just for reference. So let's move back to the first tab. This is really where most of your work will occur. And now what we're going to do is look at columns. The first column is the company name, and you can note that the column headers are all colored yellow, just to help you understand. These are all headers that are protected fields. You can't change them, and sometimes you'll find instructions in here, but this will provide you with header information, such as the company name, the contact name, email address, phone number, RSVP status, which is whether they're attending our expo this time or not. This is a great column F. This field displays any previous RVA Career Expos they may have attended. So we'll look at 89 Paint, which is our second company on the list. You can see they've attended twice in the past, way back in 2013, and have not returned since then. But that's very good reference to know. Contact notes. This is a field that you'll be filling out as you make contact with your assigned employer. Scrolling to the right, column H is a narrow column, but it's actually a very helpful column. H will provide you with history of contacts that were made in all previous expos up to this, not this current one, but all the previous expos. And just hover your cursor over the spot in column H, and a box will pop up and display some general contact information that you're more than welcome to read through, that might help you as you're beginning to reach out to companies to just see historically what are some of the conversations that have occurred in the past regarding the expo. Column I is a great field to use when you're wanting to indicate that an employer is interested in attending a future event. And you would use this, for example, if you're discussing the expo with an employer and for whatever reason they're unable to attend the event that we're planning for today, but they want to be included in future emails or future contacts. They're very interested in attending our event. It's just that they may not be able to attend this time. That's the time when you would want to indicate that they would be interested in a future event. And it's actually as simple as clicking the drop down and indicating yes, as I've just done. Further to the right, you're going to find a lot of great information about these companies. I mean, I'm looking at the very first company on the list, For You, To You. You may never have even heard of this company. So it's nice to know. We do have the webpage identified for most companies, and as I'm hovering over the cell, you can see it's hyperlinked. So you can actually click on that hyperlink and it will open up the company website. If they have social media, more and more companies are using social media. If we know what their Twitter handle and Instagram handles are, we'll have them listed here in these columns, column K and L. And then liaison assignment is to the right. Liaison assignment is in column N, and then it will automatically populate if you're a member of an accountability group or roundtable. If you recall back in video 1 when we reviewed how to register as a liaison, one of the questions you were asked when you completed that form was, what is your accountability group, roundtable, or other affinity group? So that information is linked here. When a liaison assignment is made, and by the way, a liaison cannot assign themselves to a company. They need to request assignment, and when that assignment is then made for that individual, the date of the assignment is also placed in column O. And the reason we're tracking the date that liaisons are assigned is there are oftentimes liaisons that are assigned to a company and for whatever reason are unable to fulfill their duties. Perhaps they land a job. That would be a great reason to not fulfill duties, but there may be other reasons. So for management purposes, to be able to track the date a liaison accepted assignment will then help us manage the liaison effort overall. And if we see where it's been a couple of weeks and no contact notes have been added or no contact has been made, we may need to follow up with that liaison. Finally, in column P, we have an indicator of the industry. Now, these are, as I said, broad sort of industry categories. They're not going to be as specific as you may find if you pulled up industry classification codes, but hopefully it will give you a good idea of what this company does. And this is also very important information for job seekers who are going to be attending our job fair. So this same industry information is going to be listed on the company listings that we provide to the job seekers who attend the job fair. All right, and then finally, the final columns on the right-hand side of the CRM, these are all beneath the column headers that are white, that are not yellow. These are all control fields that are being used by the folks who are managing the CRM, myself and a team of folks who are maintaining the database. So there's really nothing you need to do here. A lot of these actually drive some formulas that generate the pie charts you see on the dashboard. So there's absolutely nothing you need to do with these fields. They're all protected, so you can't change them even if you wanted to. So just, essentially ignore those final columns on the right. So anything underneath a yellow column header are the important fields for you to be interested in. So at this point, we're going to assume that you are ready to review the CRM and start selecting companies that you would be interested in covering as a liaison. And just for sake of simplicity, I'm going to work with the first few companies that you see at the top of the list. It'll make it easy to navigate. But remember, we have over 600 companies. So in scrolling down, as I'm doing now, you can see it's an extensive list. And one other thing to note, which I hadn't yet mentioned, if you look at 89 Paint, and look to the right, you can see there are 2 rows for 89 Paint, and that's because we have 2 company contacts for 89 Paint. often we have more than one contact name for a company. The first name on the row would be the primary contact, and then we also have secondary contacts. And you can see that part of this row is blacked out. There's nothing that needs to be entered or reported because the information about that company is all listed under the row for the primary contacts. But you need to know that there are often cases where there will be a black row, and that's what that's all about. That's just simply listing a secondary contact for a company. All right, so let's begin selecting employers that you might be interested in serving as a liaison. And we'll start with For You, To You brands, which simply is at the top of the list. Assuming this is a company that you may be interested in serving as a liaison, well, how would you go about requesting this list? Or you may have a list of 25 companies. Remember, when you're looking through your list, or looking through the CRM, you're going to want to check in the column M and N, where it shows who is assigned. Because if there's already a liaison covering this company, we don't assign companies to more than one liaison unless it's a special circumstance. So if someone else has already been assigned to that company is essentially no longer available. So make sure it's a company that has not been assigned yet to a liaison. In this case, For You, To You brands is open. So we're going to go into the requesting tool that I'll show you now and request For You, To You. So we want to enter back to the Google Drive where we began. And if you scroll down to the files, you'll see a form that's entitled Add, Edit, Company Contact, and beneath there another form that says Liaison Assignment Request. So we want to open up Liaison Assignment Request. And you just double click, opens up a Google form, submit to request to serve as a liaison for companies on the RVA Career Expo CRM. Simply complete this form. You need to fill out your name and sorry, I'm going to need to open up the user form. You can fill out your name, your email address, your phone number, obviously so that we are able to get in touch with you. And at this section is where you would be putting or entering the company names. Now you can you can cursor down and put more than one company name. Just as I've done here. This is simply a submission. If you have any notes or additional comments you want to add, feel free to add those there. And then you click on the button at the bottom that says submit. This is a required. Let me fill this out. All right. Hit submit. All right, we got it. It says we'll email you with a resolution. We will email you with essentially your assignments or confirmation. So this will then submit a request to a team of folks who are doing or making the liaison assignment. So it could be a day before you hear back. I'll tell you this, if you are requesting liaison assignment and you know for sure that there's no other liaison assigned to that company, there is absolutely no reason why you cannot go ahead and start or begin making contact with the company contact. I have no problem with that. The only reason I would say to wait is if you have any kind of hesitation, concern, question. But overall, if you're ready to begin making contact, you do not need to wait for that assignment to be made. As long as you've submitted a request, it usually is first come, first serve. So unless there's something unusual, there shouldn't be a problem with that. So back to our company name. Now we've returned to the CRM, and I'm ready to make contact with Mr. Hargis, the founder and CEO of this company. In this situation, I would refer back to the liaison instructions that I have on the Google Drive and the previous videos that you've already watched. So we have here, if you recall, the liaison instruction folder. You're going to open that folder and read through and remind yourself of the phone call word tracks, the talking points, the company FAQs. Just sort of arm yourself with all that information. If you want to print these documents and have them at the table with you while you make your phone calls, that would work. But just go ahead and familiarize yourself and review the liaison talking points and instructions so that when you make your call, you have some information that you're armed with. And when you place a phone call, I will say more than likely you'll go to voicemail. It's more often than not, you're going to receive a voicemail if you think about it. When you're at work, it's just unusual anymore these days for folks to answer the phone. So it's completely fine to leave a voicemail. And in fact, we recommend that you practice making a voicemail. Call yourself on your cell phone and leave yourself a voicemail as if you were contacting a company, and just practice what you would say, because it needs to be short and sweet, and you want to leave a message, something like, "Hi, I'm calling on behalf of the RVA Career Expo. You should have received an email this week in regards to our job fair, which is scheduled on October the 4th. Just calling to follow up to see if you might be interested in participating. I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. Feel free to give me a call. My name is Patrice at 804-313-7041. Thanks." Because we have their email address listed on the CRM, we recommend you also follow up with an email to the individual that you just left a voicemail, because we also know that a lot of folks never check voicemail. So recommend that you go ahead and follow up with an email, simply summarizing the same thing you left in the voicemail. "Hi, just left you a voicemail, wanted to follow up." You don't want to be pinging these folks constantly. So once you've done that, you've left a voicemail and an email, then I would just wait to see if you hear anything back. Next step, while you're here in the CRM, is to make a note that you've made contact. Making contact is leaving a message, leaving a voicemail, sending an email. All of those are various means of making contact. You do not have to have spoken to the person directly, but you do want to make a note that you've made contact, because this is how you will help yourself, remind yourself of what you've done, and also it will allow those of us who are managing the event to observe how the liaison effort is going. So what I would do here is simply begin with the date, and if you'll read through the directions on the column header, you'll see exactly what the format that we want you to do this in. So I'm going to do a date and my initials, and just say, you can see here there's some abbreviations. All right, I sent an email, right? And I also left a voicemail. So I would do something like this: email, voicemail. And that's a simple contact note. That's perfect. So you've left some type of information, an update that you've made contact. The next step is to consider now that you've made contact, is you don't want to just leave that company and let them go stale. You're going to need to follow up at some point. And so this is where the RSVP column comes in handy. If you click on the drop down, you'll see that there are actually 4 options to choose from in RSVP. One is yes, which a yes would obviously mean yes, the company is planning to attend. They verbally or in writing, they've confirmed, yes, I'm coming, I'm going to register. Or it could be no, I have no interest in attending, or I have a conflict, or whatever. If you know for sure they're not coming, you would mark no, but you would also update the contact notes and explain why they're not coming. The third and most important one, which we want to use in this situation, is follow-up. If you click on follow-up, it's a reminder to yourself that you need to follow up with For You To You brands in maybe a week or 2 if you haven't heard from them. If they've not responded to your email, if they've not called you back, we feel it's important to try to follow up You don't want to be a pest, but you want to try to follow up on everyone that you've initially made contact if you haven't heard back. So clicking on follow up will give you the reminder that you need to follow up in the future. And I will click on follow up right now so you can see what happens. When you follow up, it actually changes the color of the row. And there's a particular color indicator for each RSVP status. So I'm going to scroll down just to show you what the RSVP status and colors look like. So for example, 89 Paint, let's just pretend that 89 Paint answered your phone call, was glad to hear from you, and confirmed they are going to register and attend our event. You would enter a yes RSVP for 89 Paint, and that bar would turn green because green indicates yes, I'm attending. Oops. You would also want to add some contact notes. If you look up here under abbreviations, you see one, a DM is decision made. I would enter DM, decision made, will register today. So that's a simple note that I've added. Now, we'll move down one further and pretend that we've also made contact with Abbott. But Abbott has said, no, we're not hiring right now. We have no need to attend a job fair. In that case, we would mark no. And the color indicator for no is red. Pretty bold, so I would again add a comment under contact notes. It's also decision made, a DM, not hiring, no need to attend, something to that effect. And the final RSVP category, which we'll use on ABS technology, assuming you've reached out to ABS. ABS says, oh, we have a conflict, we can't attend, but boy, we would love to have access to the resumes. And you can tell them, perfect, we actually have an option for just $100. You can buy access to the candidate database with all the resumes. ABS would say, great, I'll go ahead and register. And they register in the same way that they would register to attend. They can just sign up for a candidate database. And using the drop down, we'll use that selector. Candidate database is the fourth RSVP option. And it's a, sort of a magenta color. So we have 4 RSVP statuses now that we've indicated. Follow up is orange, yes is green, no is red, and magenta is candidate database. Now let's jump over to the dashboard and see what's happened as a result of the RSVPs that you've now keyed into the CRM. On the dashboard, we can now see up here under company decisions, remember I noted DM in my abbreviation and my contact notes. We have 17 companies who have said yes. So the 16 that I showed you when we began this exercise that actually have signed up for the expo, and then the one additional that we indicated in this video today, which is 89 Paint. Okay, remember we've added 89 Paint. We have one company who has said, yes, I'm going to just buy the candidate database. We have one company now who has said no, and one who needs further follow-up. I want you to remember that this decision rate pie chart is really the aggregate of the entire CRM, not just your activities. So generally when you're updating an RSVP, you're going to see large numbers on this dashboard, not just for you. It's simply showing the ones here because they're the first we've indicated, but just keep that in mind. So now we're going to pull up the employer attending tab. And if you recall, prior to doing this exercise, we had 16 companies listed. Now 89 Paint is at the top of the list because it's an alphabetic list. 89 Paint has been added as a company who will be attending because you indicated yes on the RSVP. When companies register, they're going to register through our website. They're going to go to our website, as you should know the website, and you've looked at that from video 1. You've seen how to access the website. We want companies to register using the company registration tab on the website. And registration is an entirely separate process. From a liaison perspective, we would prefer that once you receive verbal confirmation that a company will attend, go ahead and mark them yes. Whether they've actually physically gone into Eventbrite and registered or not is not something we need for you to worry about at this point. It's better for us to know, yes, they want to attend, and then we will keep track of their registration. If for a few days or weeks down the road we find out they've never registered, we'll follow up with the company, or we'll have you follow up with them. But please indicate yes as soon as you are aware, either by email or a verbal phone call or something that the company is planning to attend. So in returning to the company contacts tab, the next topic I'd like to discuss with you is how to add a new company, or how to add a new contact. So editing what you see on the CRM is always an area that we receive a lot of questions about. So we're going to scroll down to ACAC, which is the next company in order, and just show you that there are certain fields, most of the fields listed under the yellow column headers can be edited by the liaison. So if, for example, you are assigned to ACAC and we have a contact name, we only have a first name in this case, Aaliyah, but you reach out to ACAC, you call the number on the CRM, and you find out Aaliyah is no longer working at ACAC, but Madge is the new person, the new point of contact at ACAC. That's great. You can actually update the name to Madge, and I'll just show you. It's as simple as going to that cell and typing the new name right there in the field, and you can update. So you can update a contact name if you find out the contact we have listed on the CRM is no longer either no longer at the company or should no longer be a contact. Because recruiters and employees change so much, this is a pretty common occurrence. We see this a lot, and so just know that we are completely fine with you making those changes. Hopefully, if you found out that Madge is the new contact, you're also going to ask, oh great, Madge, what's your email address? Because right now we have Aaliyah's email, so we need to update that. And you can either double click on the cell and go ahead and just edit like I'm doing. You can also use the formula bar at the top, and you can update up there. So if we wanted to, we could just edit from the formula bar that you see at the top. You can also update the phone number. You find out, for example, that that was Aaliyah's phone number and Madge is at extension 0991. You can change that either from the formula bar or by double clicking on the cell. It pops up the edit capabilities in the field. Anytime you make an update, such as I have done on the CRM, where you've replaced a name with another name, you always want to note that in the contact notes. You want to make note of it so that those of us that are managing and have been reviewing the CRM for many years, that we are aware that there's a new person over at ACAC. And that's as simple as we've done in the past. You just date it with your initials. There's an abbreviation up here, updated contact. You just want to use UC. Madge is now the primary POC. You can abbreviate if you want for primary contact, point of contact, or the new recruiter, whatever makes sense for you. But please make sure you go ahead and update the contact notes with what you've done as far as editing a contact name. It's often interesting when you're having a conversation or emailing back and forth with an employer, when you start explaining some of our services, you may be telling them, well, we'd love to promote your open jobs on social media. Do you have a Twitter handle? Do you use Instagram? We'd love to follow your company so that we can provide more visibility of the open jobs that you have right now. And so if you notice, we've noted Twitter handle and Instagram handle. We may not know of all of them. In this case, ACAC, at least at this point, we're not aware that they have an Instagram account. If they do, you can ask them. That's a great question to ask Madge. And if you find out they do have one, it's perfectly all right to go ahead and add that in this field. All of these fields can be edited, and we are very comfortable with having liaisons do that for us and maintaining that information. If you would like, you're more than welcome to make note of that in the contacts note field. So let's go ahead and add a second note in the field for ACAC where we explain that we've added an Instagram handle. If you read through the directions on the column header at the top of column G, you'll see, please be brief and add the most recent notes to the top. Think about it this way. The most recent notes should float to the top, and the older contacts should sink to the bottom. But how do you do that in a cell when you're working with one cell and all the notes are entered in one cell? Well, there's two ways to do it. You can double click on the cell, which brings up the edit capabilities, and just scroll backwards with using the left arrow key till you get to the far left hand side, and then go ahead and make your comments here. In this case, my note would probably just be OT other, because it's really not, none of those other abbreviations really count, and I would just say added Instagram handle. Okay, and just press enter, and there you have added. Okay, so if you'll see now, the new comment or the new note has arrived at the top of the line, and that's just so helpful. I can't tell you how helpful that is for those of us who are managing and overseeing the event as a whole, that we can quickly read through comments and see progression of discussions. And often you'll be adding numerous contacts, but please do your best to add the most recent comments to the top of the line. It's very, very helpful for us. All right. The next thing we're going to discuss is, what do you do when you need to edit a contact but you're not replacing a name? And an example of that would be if ACAC ended up Madge is the perfect point of contact or the primary, but there's also a secondary contact you would like to have added to the CRM. Let's say in this example that Betty also works at ACAC. She's also in human resources at ACAC. And you, in speaking with Madge, you've also had the opportunity to speak with Betty, and you'd like to add Betty to the CRM as well. Unfortunately, one of the functions we aren't able to open up to liaisons is the ability to insert a row. I know most of you are comfortable with doing that in Excel, but due to the dashboard and the formulas that are built into the CRM, it essentially breaks the dashboard if a liaison inserts a row, because there are a lot of background formulas that need to be updated. And so in this case, we actually have a form on the drive that will allow you to use. So if we go back to the Google Drive, and I'm actually in the instruction folder, I need to back out to the root drive. This form right here, listed on the root drive, add edit company contact. This form can be completed if you just simply want to add a new contact, or if you want to add an entirely new company. This form can be used for either. So we go back to CRM. In one example, we might want to simply add Betty to ACAC. ACAC is already listed as a company, but you may also have a new company that is not listed on the CRM. I know we have over 600 companies, but there are many, many more companies in business in Richmond, Virginia. So it is very likely you may run across a company or know of one who is not listed on the CRM, but there's someone you're interested in making contact with. There's someone as a liaison you would love to reach out to and speak to about the RVA Career Expo. And by all means, we would love to add them to the CRM, certainly if it's beneficial to you in your job search, if you're a job seeker, because it provides you an opportunity to reach out and talk about the expo with any company you want, whether they're listed on the CRM or not. So we'll go through the form. The form is to add or edit. In the first case, we're going to add Betty, who's already in ACAC. This one is an easier form to fill out. And I beg your pardon, I'm on the wrong form. Here we go. First thing we need is your name. So just in case we have any trouble, we can get in touch with you and ask questions. And then there's a checkbox. What would you like to do? We're going to add a new contact. First two options are about company ads. This is add a new contact. You can even ask us to delete a contact or edit any other information. This form is will serve any of these functions. Company name, in this case, just tell us it's ACAC. Oops. Yep. Company contact name, Betty. Her title, if you know it, you may not know it. In this case, I don't. It's okay to leave it blank. We're asking a lot of questions here. You may not know the answers to all. The more information you can provide us, the better, because that will provide more information on CRM for you to research and for future job seekers to research when they're serving as a liaison. So you happen to know Betty's email address. Okay, so you want to include that. I would prefer that you at least have the contact information so that we can record that on the CRM. In this case, the web page is an irrelevant question because we already know what the web page is, simply because ACAC is a company already on the CRM, right? Twitter handle may or may not be relevant depending on if you know what it is or not, or if we already have it recorded on the CRM. Notes and additional comments. In this case, we're simply requesting that we add Betty to the ACAC company line as a secondary contact, and you can hit submit. That's as easy as that, and that notification will go to the team who's working to maintain the CRM behind the scenes, and then we'll be happy to add that contact name underneath ACAC, and you'll receive a confirmation email regarding that request. All right, so let's go back now, and the next option is to add a new company. Here's a company that has never been listed on the CRM before, and you would like to add them. Again, you as a liaison will not have the permissions to insert a row and do that yourself, unfortunately, because it breaks the formulas. But we will go back to the Google Drive, and we will request to add a company in this example. All right. Adding a company requires a little more information, and I think that hopefully that makes sense, because you want to provide us with the most complete information you possibly can. That will enable us to have the CRM filled out with as much information as possible. So again, you want to provide us with your name and contact. All right. In this case, there are two options for adding a company. Add a new company and assign me as the liaison. Add a new company, but don't assign me as the liaison. If it were let's just say that I want to add this company, but I also want to be the liaison. That's all done in one request. So you don't have to go back and fill out the other form that I showed you earlier, requesting a liaison. You do that all at once. We have a lot of folks that go through the CRM and know of a company or know a great prospect to add to the CRM, but they're not necessarily interested in being the liaison. Often it's Charlie Wood or Ed Landry who will email us or let us know about interesting companies. So we'd appreciate any new company added to the CRM that you may know of. But in this case, we're going to assume that you want to add a new company and you want to be the liaison to make contact. Company name, just making up a name. The contact name is Sally. In this case, I might know her title. It's great to know the title if you do, and add that, include that. That's very, very helpful for folks in the future to make contact. All right, Sally's phone number. Because this is a brand new company, it would be wonderful if you've already looked up the web page and you would provide that information to us. And if you think about it, if you're a job seeker or a liaison, you want to do as much research as possible about this company if you're going to serve as a liaison. So it naturally would make sense that you'd want to find their website and look that up. So providing that information to us will enable us to add that to the CRM. Their Twitter handle, if they have one. Instagram handle, etc. These, if none of these questions in this section are required. It's just very, very helpful. The more information you can provide to us and add to the CRM, the more helpful it will be for you as a job seeker researching the company, but also for the RVA Career Expo as a whole, and just adding to the CRM. So we're going to submit that. All right. Allows you to submit it, and then you'll again receive an email once we have added the new company and assigned you as the liaison. So back to the CRM one final time. We've had fun looking at companies. Hopefully you'll really enjoy scrolling through and researching, but there are tons of companies, as you can see. It's a large, large list. When you scroll to the right, you'll notice for research purposes, you may want to hone in on a specific industry, a company of interest that you're very interested in serving as a liaison, and that's a good way to identify them. But I would recommend that you scroll through and don't limit yourself to companies that you've heard of or have thought this is what you want to do. You never know. You never know. Just keep an open mind and search through, and we have plenty of opportunities to serve as a liaison. But that leads me to the next topic and final topic, using the custom filter. The filter is going to help you pare down this list, because as you've already seen, the list is long. And when you're managing this list on top of all the other liaisons, it's a shared document, so you're going to have plenty of people in here at the same time. What you want to do is filter the view so you're only looking at your companies, that you're not having to scroll through 600, 700, 800 lines. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and assign the companies here to myself, just so that I'm serving as the liaison to then show you how to use the custom filter. All right. Let's assume you have requested and are now assigned to a large number of companies, and you would rather, for your purposes, when you're making your phone calls, filter down the list to simply the companies that are assigned to you. In this case, you can use the custom filter. Right, so now we're going to cover how to use the custom filter. And this is a great tool. If you look at the ribbon here at the top of the CRM, you're going to see a filter button. You see a little picture of a filter, and then a drop down immediately to the right of the filter. And it's the drop down that you want to select. This is how you're going to create your filter view. If you click on the drop down, you'll see the first choice is to create a new filter view, and that is what you want to select. So create a new filter view. And when you do that, sort of a magical thing happens. This big black border pops up, and this you need to understand you are now in your own personal filter view. No one else in the shared document can see this but you. And you now have control over all of the filter buttons across the top in the yellow column header, and you can select anyone you want. In this case, in this example, we're going to filter on our name, on my name, because today's filter, what I want to see are just my companies that have been assigned to me. So you select, you click on the filter drop down and select my name. Now in this case, the default is select all, so you need to deselect those that are not me. The easiest way to do that, because you may see a number of names pop up, is just hit clear and then find your name and check your name. You just want one check next to your name and say okay. And in this case, the filter view, it takes a while, you can see it's churning a little bit, but you can see now the only companies on my view are the companies that have been assigned to me that meet the requirements of that filter. So you just saved yourself a lot of work in scrolling through this document, because now you're only viewing your companies. You can easily make your phone calls, write in your contact updates. It will make life so much easier. But let's, and remember, no one else who's sharing this document with you can see this view. It's only visible to you. Well, let's go ahead and or deselect, go back in and check all, and open up that filter to all, and I have to scroll down here to get there. Okay, I'm just going to want to have, I want all of them to show again by hitting select all. So let's say, for example, now we're looking at the CRM again. This time all the companies again are showing, but you can see we're still in the filter view. We still have this big black border sitting at the top. So this is my personal filter. Rather than looking at the companies that are assigned to me, this time I want to search on a specific industry, for example. And there are lots of them listed, but you can go through and actually select a particular industry. And I'm just going to pick commercial banks as an example and say okay. And what will happen in this case is my personal filter view is only showing commercial banks that are on the CRM. And you can see them all listed here, which is a fantastic list. So if, for you as a job seeker, you're targeting banking as a career option, this would be a way to hone down, pare down the list and see just the companies on CRM that are commercial banks. You can also view if they're assigned yet or not to a liaison. If not, feel free to request assignment. This is a great tool for roundtable groups to use. When they're reviewing the CRM together as a roundtable, you can go through using the personal filter or the filter view and the industry filter button in column P and actually curate a small list, a manageable list of companies that you might be interested in contacting. So I highly recommend using the filter view. It's an excellent tool and something that will save you a lot of time and trouble.